Okay, we'll begin. We have a long night tonight. We'll call the meeting for March 6th, 2006 for the City Council meeting, regular meeting to order. We'll stand for prayer. And that's from Captain Tim Nauta from the Salvation Army.
Let us pray. Almighty God and Heavenly Father, we do ask your blessing upon this meeting this evening. And I ask and uplift the leaders here this evening and ask that you would give them a new spirit of wisdom and knowledge, and that you would guide them this evening in all the discussion and decision-making processes that will take place. Father, we just thank you for all your many blessings, and we just look forward to what you have in store for us here in Watertown. In Jesus' name, amen.
We'll begin with roll call.
Arbogast,
Here.
Garnos,
Here.
Gisselbeck,
Here.
Heller,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Meisenheimer,
Here.
Solberg, Walder,
Here.
Wilson,
Here.
and York.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a motion to approve the minutes of the City Council meeting held on February 21st, 2006. So moved by Giselbeck, seconded by Mr. Heller. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried to approve the minutes. Item number 2 is an application for transfer of a retail on-off sale malt beverage license from John Haugen, which was inactive, to Midwest Properties of Watertown Incorporated, which is Midtown Smoke Shop and Casino. We'll begin this evening with a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak to that issue? If not, we'll close the public hearing and go to council action. Could we have a motion, please? Motion to approve the transfer by Mr. Wilson. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Mr. Meisenheimer. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 3 is an application for transfer of a retail on-sale liquor license and transfer of a retail on-off sale malt beverage license from Wilden Incorporated Lakeshore to Lunkers LLC. And we'll begin with the public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak to the transfer? If not, then we will close the public hearing. I would ask the council to table B, C, and D, which is the liquor license transfer, the malt beverage license transfer, and the Sunday liquor sales. There's some items that are incomplete, so we have a motion for a table.
So motion to table.
So moved by Mrs. Arbogast and seconded by Mrs. York. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried to table those 3 items. Next is item number 4 is applications for transfer of a retail on-off sale malt beverage license from David Bluedorn, Sportsman's Inn Casino, to GAT Incorporated, Sportsman's Inn Casino, and an application for a new retail on-sale wine license from GAT Incorporated, Sportsman's Inn Casino. And so we'll begin with a public hearing. Is there anyone here to speak to the transfer and the new licenses and that? If not, then we'll close the public hearing. And again, because of some incomplete items that we need to have taken care of, I'd ask that the council table B and C, which was council action on malt beverage license transfer and council action on a new wine license. If I could have a motion to table those 2 items, please.
Motion to table.
So moved by Mr. Giselbeck and seconded by Mrs. York. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 5 is an ordinance number 06-04, rezoning lots 10 through 15, Gilmore Beach Edition. And Rick?
Thank you, Mayor Fox, and good evening to you and ladies and gentlemen of the council. This is the second reading of ordinance 0604, which has been included in your agenda packet. It is an ordinance amending zoning district boundaries by rezoning certain real property from C3 Highway Commercial District and R1 Single Family Residential District to an R3 Multifamily District. And if you would open the public hearing, Mayor.
Okay, we'll open the public hearing on the ordinance number 0604. Is there anyone here to speak to the issue?
If I might, I have a
Yes,
few more
Rick, go ahead.
introductory remarks. Thank you. This issue is brought to you by Rodney R. Redlin on behalf of KAM Development Group, LLC. Consultants that we've been involved with to date on their behalf also include Scott Engineering and Landmark Builders. This matter was taken up before the Plan Commission in their February 8th meeting. We heard the first reading of this ordinance title on February 21st. The current zoning, first of all, I guess, where are we talking? Where is Gilmore Beach? It's the Sunnyside Inn vicinity. That piece of property that on which Sunnyside Inn is located on South Lake Drive, and there's two lots between it and the Game Fish and Parks property, and then the 3 residential lots on the east side of Sunnyside Inn. So to give you a reference, and if we need help knowing where that is, I've had the ArcView GIS stuff up as well, but we have included a vicinity map in your packet. The hearing was public noticed on in the February 24th Watertown Public Opinion. We note that one of the discussion points is, of course, when we rezone from a C3 where the Sunnyside Inn is now to an R3, that use, the restaurant use, no longer conforms to the zoning district uses. And that issue was discussed at Plan Commission, and the commission was assured by the petitioner and applicant that the restaurant use has already been discontinued. So the Plan Commission recommends in their resolution 2006-3 recommendation for approval of the requested zoning change, and that is our request from staff and recommendation as well.
Okay, is there anyone else to speak to the issue? If not, then we'll close the public hearing and go to council action. And may I either have a motion to approve or disapprove of ordinance number 06-04?
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Walter. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wilson. Any further discussion? If not, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 6 is consideration of bids received for the library project. And Mike Mullen, please. I'm sorry, Dave, were you going to speak to that then?
We're all speaking.
You're all speaking. Okay, go ahead.
Mark from Architect Inc. Just walked in the door from our architect. Mayor, City Council, we have 2 issues before you to consider and approve, hopefully. The one is the bid. We did receive 5 bids on the renovation and addition. And Jan's Corporation out of Sioux Falls, $3,439,000, including 2 alternates, alternate 1 and alternate 2 that you'll see listed. We'd like approval on the alternates as well. We are going to reserve going ahead with the alternates pending no surprises as far as the construction goes. So that's why we requested the alternates to be broken out for that reason. So it is something that we'd like to also proceed with, but knowing that if something comes up on the construction project that we would need to cut back on, we can do that. And Mark from Architect Inc. is here with any questions that you might have as well.
So the addition and renovation contract then you'd want us to approve is for the Jan's Corporation out of Sioux Falls?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
And the recommendation is to also exercise alternates number 1 and number 2. Correct, Dave?
Correct. As you'll see also, alternate number 4, we are going to exercise that on another means at a different cost. So we're taking alternate 4 out of the picture.
Okay. And number 3, alternate number 3 was also,
If you'll see under Jan's, the alternate number 3 was
There
at
is-
$0,
okay,
$0,
okay.
correct.
okay. Well, if we could have a motion then to approve the addition and renovation contract.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Johnson. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mrs. Walter. Now we have discussion. Is there any discussion on this?
Is this about where you were hoping everything would come in?
Yeah, the bids are about where we thought they would be. We did an estimate at about 4 million a few months prior to the bid letting, and we cut back on a few things, and we thought this is about where it would be, is right around 3.5. I did talk to Dale Jans this morning, and he feels that his subs will hold those alternate bids for at least a couple months after we start construction. So we'll keep tabs on that. We wanted to get the demolition and the footing and foundation work done before we felt comfortable with making those expenditures and cutting our contingency down. So, but yeah, I think we're about right on track where we thought we would be.
And Jan's Corporation is
Reputable.
good, reputable company. And
They
familiar
did
with-
the Harley Davidson building here in town. They're doing some work in Clark this summer, and so they thought this would be a real good fit for them. So
And you worked with them in the past.
we've worked with them on many projects. Yes.
Any other questions?
I would just like to say that the library board has really researched this very, very thoroughly. And we appreciate all the hours and everything you've all put in.
Any other comments? If not, then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item B is the asbestos abatement contract. Dave, you want to speak to that?
Yes, actually, I apologize, I don't have one of the sheets in front of me that you have in front of you, but you'll see the low bid. I believe it's, correct me if I'm wrong, it's a little over $14,000 from Gary Snow, and we would request that you approve that bid, please.
Okay. That was a substantial savings from all the others, is from what I've heard,
Yes,
so.
that's why we'd really like you to
Yeah.
approve that one.
Yeah. Okay. And he has gone out and checked it too, so he's very comfortable with that bid. I think that needs to be made aware of too, so.
Correct.
I would make motion to approve
Okay,
Gary
motion-
Snow and Associates for $14,958.
Okay, that's motion by Alderman Johnson. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Meisenheimer. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. I also like to take the time, too, to thank the city council and staff. I really like to put a plug in for Tracy and Stanton. This has been a long process with a lot of background over the last 6 months, as well as what the board has put into. And we're very, very excited to now get to the point to go forward. And we're very excited to be able to provide a building for the library and for the city of Watertown. Thank you.
Dave, have you made a formal announcement yet on the new location of the library?
No, thank you, Mayor. Actually, I had that written down in my notes. Now that the approval has gone forward, the temporary location for the library will be at the what's considered the old Zimmels building, which is at 15 First Street Northwest. We anticipate going into that building right around that April 1 time period. This next month will give the landlord time to go through and make some changes and updates to the building. But of course, they couldn't really go forward until tonight when we had final approval. So about 30 days of renovation, and then we'll be getting the book stacks and all the product moved over. And we anticipate, based on the construction period, we anticipate this to be a 12-month period, of course. And we also, as you probably remember on the contracts, we do have some leeway there. We can go a month-to-month period, but the contractor is also confident that 12-month period is very doable.
Dave, I have a question. Question has come up about the summer programs. Are there still going to be the summer programs that so many kids in the community are involved in?
I'll let Mike address that.
Here he comes, all ready for the question.
Short answer is yes. The long answer is there's going to be some constraints on it based upon the space that we have. We'll have summer programs. It's just not going to be quite the way they've been before because the space that we're going into doesn't have an enclosed area where you can hold them. We'll have an area that is set off to the side that's usable, but there's a noise containment issue too, so.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dave. Before we proceed, I'd like to recognize Troop 8 Boy Scouts that just came in. Marvin Wenches is the Scoutmaster. And I believe they're here tonight working on their citizenship in the community. And so welcome. We're here, glad to have you here tonight. So, moving on to Agenda item number 7, which is consideration of bids received for the Senior Citizen Center restroom renovation project. Tracy?
Thank you. Herb asked if I would present this on his behalf to the council tonight. The council members may recall that in our budget process last summer, we did appropriate some funding for the Senior Citizen Center restroom renovation project. They are relocating some restrooms, making them more accessible, and relocating some storage space as well. The city had budgeted $56,000 for this project, and the base bid came in at $57,664.30. In the process of planning the project, there was a problem identified with the sanitary sewer line serving the building, and so that was added as an alternate to this project, and you can see that on your bid tab. That alternate B is $5,350, and along with the small alternate A of $394 for the automatic flush valves, brings the total bid from our lone bidder, Cordell Construction, to $63,408.30. So that's slightly over budget, somewhat over budget, I should say, $7,400 or so over budget. And if the council is inclined to award the bid, I would also ask that you approve with that same motion a contingency account transfer of $7,500 to cover that overrun.
So moved by Alderman Garnos. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Wilson. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item number 8 is the first reading of ordinance number 06-02, amending Title 6 regarding the disinterment procedures at Mount Hope Cemetery. And Roger Adams, please.
Tonight we have a request for first reading on the disinterment section in the cemetery ordinance. Basically what we're trying to do here is bring the wording of our disinter section in compliance with what the state statute is. City Attorney Fox has reviewed the state statute and has revised our proposed ordinance to comply with the way that reads. So first reading, I guess, takes no action, but I'll try and answer any questions that you have.
Are there any questions to Roger in regards to this? I guess not, Roger. Thank you then. We'll see you next time. Item number 9 is the first reading of the ordinance number 05-17, the signed ordinances revisions, and Brian Pellish from the committee is here. Brian?
Good evening. Tonight's first reading does not require any action. I guess I'm here to answer any questions, but just a brief overview so far on where we started this process and why we're here tonight. March 2002, the Planning Commission undertook an activity to rewrite the signage ordinance that Watertown has. It hadn't been updated since we believe in the maybe late 40s or early 50s. Committee was formed of a cross-section of citizens from Watertown. I think it bears mention when you hear the amount of work they've done, I'd like to at least recognize them for their activities. No longer with the city was Darwin Brinkman. He was involved in the first few years of our activities. Todd Kays from Senior Planner for First District. Bruce Bueller, the Planning Commission Chairman. Andy Mahold, as most of you know, on the Planning Commission as well with the Realty World. Myself, Ed Spies, who represented the chamber members here in Watertown. Mark Stein, who represented the sign industry and is a spokesperson for that sector. Stanton Fox, who graciously guided us through that process. And then the City Council representative, Brad Johnson. The committee's goals were fairly simple. We wanted to establish minimum standards that supported the new forms of signage being used today in the community. As many of you have heard through the discussions that I've had with most of you, the current ordinance referred to space-age materials such as plastics. So that gives you an idea of the vintage of the ordinance that we were working with. There was a number of references to candle power, and there were some of us that actually wondered if they weren't truly referring to the luminaries of candles. Secondly, we heard this loud and clear from the business community is we wanted to create a level playing field for both large businesses and small businesses. Anywhere from the super Walmart centers down to a family-owned operated business that may only have 50 or 60 feet of property to work with. And there was some huge disparities in the ordinance of what they were allowed or not allowed to do. The third one was an important one to me and why I actually got involved, which was to clean up the aesthetic look of Watertown. There was a large number of people that I have worked with over the years that are commenting how the look of Watertown has really gone in a direction that's not favorable to what they were hoping to see. And then finally, number 4, and very important, is to ensure the safety of the citizens of Watertown by establishing up-to-date standards for the construction, placement, and electrical wiring of the signs being used, because so many technological changes have occurred over the years, and we wanted to incorporate those standards into our new ordinance. So with that, those 4 goals established, this group met every 3 to 4 weeks for over 3 years. Sitting down and getting public input from various folks on possible changes and ideas that we were considering to write into this ordinance. The committee reviewed 12 to 14 city ordinances for signage from across the upper Midwest. We tried to benchmark ourselves against communities of like size that had similar situations that we looked at. We predominantly stuck in the states of Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota in our look. During the writing process, we took a lot of input from business, from the sign industry, and we really appreciate the input that those folks have given us along the way. The Planning Commission, along with the public input that they've had, we've had several listening sessions, and with that we made about 1 page of recommended changes, and that was incorporated most recently here with some welding modifications, some redefinitions to the national standards for building. I won't take you into all the boring details of that, but those pieces are available, which are our 4th revision. The documents before you we see as very workable. They're the fruits of a lot of hard work of the members that were involved with this. It offers the businesses of Watertown an excellent opportunity to advertise their goods and services while getting the job done on a very level and playing field, which is something that they've asked for. This ensures that the public, that the signs being constructed and erected are done in a safe manner. As you look over the last couple years, we've had some incidences here in town where some of these very large structures have collapsed. And if that would have happened in the right circumstances over public right-of-ways, we could have had some serious injury, so we hope we've incorporated that. But with that, that's really the gist of what we bring to you this evening for first reading. And
Your Honor,
Yes, Gordy?
a couple of comments. First of all, I certainly compliment everyone who has been working on this for so terribly long. And I know there's been a lot of frustrations along the way. I particularly like your efforts in the aesthetics of seeing what we can do. However, I have had a concern expressed to me regarding the length of that a portable sign can be on a site, and I'm sure have you been made aware of these?
Mm-hmm. There was some revisions made recently to that. Are you referring to too long or too short?
Too short.
Okay, the revisions that were made to the ordinance, proposed ordinance, currently was written as 3 15-day periods, and the language was added, correct me if I'm wrong, or 2 30-day periods with a 60-day span in between each of those periods. So that was feedback that we got in one of the listening sessions from one of the local business people. The intention of or recommendation from the board was to eliminate them completely, And this was brought forward as a compromise between business and what was being proposed, so.
Thank you. Was this change brought back to the person who was concerned about it? You know?
Yes, I believe so. Yeah, he was at the last planning commission meeting when we discussed that.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Stan?
Mr. Mayor, I do know that there is a gentleman here from the sign industry who we spoke with earlier this afternoon, who I think when Mr. Pellish has concluded his remarks, I think he'd probably like to address the council.
Brian, do you have any further than to say? Thank you so much, Brian. I know you've been very supportive of people's input, and I know you've been very sensitive to their requests, so thank you very much for
Thanks.
a great job. Okay. Bill, would you like to identify yourself? And
Bill Artmeyer, Service Signs. I just, I know there's been a lot of work from a lot of people to put this together. Just recently, out in the field, when we're out there putting them up, we run into different situations. And one thing I'd like to ask the board to look at is the size of a freestanding sign, if it's right on the road versus being back off the road. Because when they're back off the road, sometimes business people can't put them right on the road for whatever reason, so they put them maybe back towards their building or back beside their building. Those people need more square footage and more height to be able to allow to have that sign in place. Reason being is when you're the further you get off the road, the smaller the sign's going to appear because it's further away. To be able to read it, to be able to put copy on it, and there's situations that have come up just recently that when the sign is that far off the road, and my suggestion would be to have a formula in the ordinance that X amount of feet, X amount of height, X amount of square footage. There is other ordinances from other other towns that we can provide to show that. I think that would help a lot on the size of the pylon signs.
so apparently our current ordinance doesn't address that issue. Is that correct, Bill?
That's correct. That's correct. In the current ordinance, depending on what type of zone you're in, that determines your lot frontage. That'll determine the square footage you're able to get, and your height that you can put it up in the air.
Okay. Well, maybe you can get together with Brian after the meeting, or see when they're going to meet again, or offer that as maybe an addition to the new ordinance, since it's not being
I'd be happy
addressed
to.
now.
I'd be somewhat concerned about proceeding along those lines, because then, in essence, in proportion, I mean, what you're trying to say is the sign's gonna be just as big in proportion to you being on the road, because if you're, take for example, a sign from Dakota Sioux Casino on Sioux Conifer Road, but sits way back off the highway. It used to be right on the highway on what now is city property, and they've had to move it back farther away. You, under your proposal, that sign would be huge. You know, and so if you're an immediate neighbor to that type of a sign, if you're back off the road, I guess I'd be real concerned about messing with it.
The
I think
sign,
you're creating a
the
bureaucratic
particular sign
nightmare.
that you're talking about is an off-premise sign, if I'm right. I'm more referring to on-premise signs, more of the business signs right along 212 and Highway 20. You know, if you're back off, let's say right now you have a sign that's 40 feet in the air, and it's 40 feet in the air for a reason, for visibility, because it's way back in the middle of the lot. Okay, the new sign ordinance, if they replace it, possibly could bring it down. Their own building could block their own sign. That's what I'm saying. Is if it's further off the building, you need the height. You need the height, and you need the square footage.
If you're talking, and on, yeah, a sign that goes with the business, most of those businesses are gonna have frontage onto the highway.
Correct.
So why wouldn't they put the sign out by the highway as opposed to
There-
way back?
There
I
might,
think-
there
I
might, there
think
might
you-
be obstacles that they can't
Yeah.
do that.
I
you
guess
know.
I would just really wanna proceed with any caution in making this way more complicated than we could probably deal with from an enforcement standpoint. And, so.
I have a question. Was your concern expressed during any of these listening meetings?
No, it wasn't. It
Why?
wasn't. Because it just recently came up. It just recently came up in the last couple days where this particular incident, the ordinance wouldn't work for it. And I think it's a valid argument for the ordinance because it's going to happen again. And there's going to be other situations where if it's right on the highway, it's very visible. It doesn't need to be as large. If it's back off the highway, it needs to be larger. It needs to be up in the air so it's visible.
Well, I don't know what, I don't want to sound really stupid about this, but I have no idea what you're talking about. And I wish you'd get together with with Rick and his staff and voice your concerns to them and have them come back with a recommendation. You do that?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, we'll proceed further now with that item number 10, which is plat approvals. First one being Sunnyside Subdivision, Resolution 06-10, and item number B, Palm Seconded Subdivision of Resolution number 06-15. Rick, please.
First of all, item 10A, Sunnyside Subdivision. This is a replat of lots 10 through 15, Gilmore Beach Edition. That legal description probably sounds somewhat familiar because we just visited about that in the rezoning at Sunnyside Inn. This went to the Plan Commission on February 8th, and it received the recommendation for approval at that time. Again, the petitioner is Rodney R. Redland for KAM Development Group LLC. The consultant and surveyor is Scott Engineering. The zoning as proposed and approved tonight would be the R3, and I would note that the lots certainly meet the requirements of the R3 zoning district for single-family structures, duplexes, townhomes, and 4 to 6 unit apartment buildings or multifamily dwellings. A couple things that we need to work out yet, staff. With the applicant's help, we need to mutually decide on the location and size of a drainage easement, and we just haven't had a chance to do that. We've exchanged voicemails and emails, and time just has not permitted us to get together and decide where that's going to be and its size. So that's one thing that we look forward to completing that piece of work and adding that dashed lines in the appropriate location on the drawing that you have in your packet. We would request then that you allow us that flexibility and that your approval this evening be conditioned upon the city and the applicant enter into a waiver of right to protest, which is a tool that we've been using a lot on sidewalk and trail participation and future curb and gutter when it makes sense to do it in the future rather than individually right now. Again, the provision of the plat of that drainage easement. And one thing to note in terms of timing, really this plat should not become, it really can't become effective until ordinance 0604 becomes truly effective, and that's the ordinance for rezoning to R3 that the council approved this evening. And the time that we're talking about is a 20 days following the publication of that ordinance. Ends the appeal period, and that's when the ordinance in fact becomes effective. Now the reason that's important is if we plat this without the ordinance being fully effective, there's an opportunity for having lots that do not conform with the zoning district. So that is the reason for that condition. But other than that, with those minor conditions, we at staff level and with the Planning Commission's recommendation as well request your approval.
With that, may we have a motion, please?
With all of the recommendations, I make that motion.
Thank you, Alderman Heller. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Alderwoman York. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Rick?
The next item is the plat of Palm Second Subdivision. Your petitioners and applicants are Dennis Holeen and William F. Neese, Vice President and Chief Financial Officer for Angus Industries Incorporated, a Delaware corporation. They own portions of Lot A of Palm Subdivision, which is being replatted. The land surveyor is Marty Mack of Austin Engineering. The plat dated February 3rd, 2006, again, is a replat of Lot A. Its current zoning is I-1, light industrial. Its location, we've included the vicinity map in your packets if people listening. It's located in the airport industrial park on the intersections of, I believe it's Cessna and Piper Avenues. I believe it was the old OEM site. I guess with that I would conclude my remarks and note that only that the Plan Commission took this up on February 23rd with the recommendation for approval. And this is in line with a previous Board of Adjustment action as well on December 22nd, kind of anticipating that these lines would be drawn as platted.
We have a motion, please. So moved by Alderman Garnos, seconded by Alderman Giselbeck. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Rick. Next, item number 11, Urban Renewal Board, the report on 2005 activities. And Tracy?
Thank you. I'll kick this item off. The Urban Renewal Board, under state law, is required to each year at this time provide a report of its activities for the previous year to the City Council. And the report historically has always included really two elements, one being the financial report, the balance sheet and income statement, if you will, for for the previous year, which is 2005. That part of the report is prepared by the Finance Office, and you have a copy of that in your agenda packet. If you have questions relative to either the balance sheet or the revenue and expenditure statement, I'd try to answer those. And if not, the second part of the report has typically been given by the Urban Renewal Board, and I believe the chair of the board is here this evening to address the narrative report and let you know what the Urban Renewal Board has been up to and kind of what they've got coming up in the future.
Thank you, Tracy. I'm Sharon File. I'm the chair of the Urban Renewal Board. Kind of a new chair. I'm going to report from August forward pretty much, but we have been busy. If you're not familiar with our function, we hire the Uptown Coordinator. And Ann Ray Herr has been on board since May of 2005. The responsibilities she holds for the Urban Renewal Board are staying in contact with our property owners, our business people, anybody within the Urban Renewal Board's district, which runs from, I believe, the Post Office Street to 3rd, which would be by Freedom, and from 1st Avenue North to 1st Avenue South. One of her primary jobs, as far as I'm concerned, is researching grants and applying for grants so that we can continue to offer programs for our property owners to keep their property upgraded and in good repair. Right now, we have finished with our sidewalk grant from last year, and there's no money left. We've had a couple of requests from property owners about some sidewalks. So Ann Ray is in the process now of looking into that again to see if we can come up with some more money so we can do some matching things with repairing sidewalks in the downtown area. We have a couple of business owners who are applying for a revolving loan fund, and that would be to do things in the front of their stores or our revolving loan fund is bricks and mortar pretty much. I mean, we can't do anything with inventory or fixtures or anything like that, but we can help them with signage, with paint, with doing any upgrades to the front of their building. And we have a young man who is extremely interested. He's bought a building and wants to redo it, that is talking to us about that. So with that, I guess we also employ Bob Ortmeyer, and you're probably all familiar with Bob. He's our Uptown Beautification Manager, and he does an excellent job. He goes around every day, picks up trash, sweeps up, and is very excited right now because we've told him he can take on Laurie's Park up in the other end of town, and he's going to start cleaning that too. So he'll do a good job. And then Mr. Rhodey works for us, and he's the maintenance man at the Uptown bathrooms. He keeps them clean and neat and keeps them supplied. Along with the Chamber of Commerce, I'm not real sure if there was one held last year, but this year there will be a United Hands to do cleanup in Uptown Watertown. And once again, we've been on the street just looking at some problem areas where we can offer our help and maybe some volunteer help with just getting things spruced up and cleaned up. We're also, of course, working on Phase 4, which I'm sure you people are wanting to hear about. That's the big project that will be coming up. The surveys have been taken. Everything is in the hands of Dave Todd right now, and he's putting it together so that we can hold public meetings, so we can tell business owners what we have planned. And Phase 4 is Broadway, both sides of the street from First to First, Maple, both sides of the street from First to First. And if the money holds up, it would be Second Street, both sides of the street, from First to First. And it would principally involve the same kind of things we did on Kemp Avenue when we had that renovation going. So there would be the new sidewalk along the edges, streetlights, the old-fashioned looking streetlights would be put in, and there's trees that we're planning. I haven't seen the total, the end drawings yet, but I'm assuming that this is so that we can get everything looking the same downtown. We've got everything going in the same direction. And like I said, that is now in the architect's hands. We had a little hold up there because we didn't have the surveys finished by the engineers. That's all done. He has the plans and we'll be getting to them. I've signed the contract with him to go ahead with it, so he'll be getting with us shortly on that. And then we will be holding public meetings. So business owners and property owners know what we're intending to do and can give us their input. We will be holding a cleanup in May, like I said, because we're excited in the downtown area about having Capital for a Day in I think September. And we want it to look as good as we can possibly make it. Other than that, we're getting our garbage cans finally too. We were a little remiss in that, the existing board, because we thought they were all designed and ready to go, and when we found out that they hadn't been designed yet, we got a hold of Jim Bueller and the city sanitation department, and those designs have been put together now, and as far as I know, Bueller is on top of that, and the VOTEC is getting them done. So we shortly will have trash receptacles in the downtown area, which we desperately need. Other than that, I guess the only other thing, we have our revolving loan fund. We currently have 20 loans out, but we have monies there, so we can continue that. And aside from that, I think that with Phase 4, we're going to be plenty busy. You do have a kind of a crude line drawing in your packets, I believe, on a park that we are anticipating. I felt kind of bad after the last meeting I was at when Nancy York was there, and she said, am I going to be getting a lot of phone calls? And because I hadn't given any of you a heads up, and I think I need to do that tonight. Our board had looked at the lovely fountain we have down in the corner that welcomes people into our uptown area, and kind of felt like it wasn't quite finished yet. So the plans we have tentatively made is to take that corner of that parking lot where the fountain stands and to put in some green areas, a pathway, a flagpole with a flag, and then we'd like to move in a big blue spruce. So my dream is to see Christmas kicked off with a tree lighting ceremony and a really nice big uptown Christmas tree. Now, to give you a heads up, and where Nancy was coming from, I think, was we neglected to mention to anybody when we were planning all this that we're going to lose 13 parking places in that parking lot if we can go ahead with that. Dave Todd has the crude drawing, and he's putting something together for us, and we'll be getting back with you. I've driven by there every day, trying to determine whether it's going to be a problem, and I think it's never full. I think we're going to be okay with that, but we'd really like to see just a nice park there with the fountain in it. We already have people who are volunteering a flagpole and a flag, so I think we're going to be able to get some money from the business community there too. But I will give you a heads up in case someone's heard rumors and they call you and say, how many parking places are we going to lose? Because it's going to be an issue, I'm sure. Other than that, that's probably where we're at right now and what we've kind of gotten done last year and what we're hoping to do this year.
Sharon, in the 2006 Urban Renewal Board budget addendum on the revitalization project, Phase 3, that means
It's Phase 4.
Okay.
I've been talking about Phase 3 for 2 years too, and I find out now, when I went to sign the contract with the architect, I said, this is wrong, I can't sign it, and he said, no, it's right. The bathrooms were Phase 2 or 3, and so we kind of, so it's actually Phase 4.
Okay. And moving on down, I see that We're counting on a community foundation grant to be applied for, $55,700. Assuming that we get that, I see that there's an unfunded balance of $42,680. How are we gonna take care of that?
Well, we have money, to the best of my knowledge, and I will kind of maybe push this back toward Tracy, but there is money in the Urban Renewal Fund, and I believe in the past they have offered to match or to come up with shortfalls on Phase 4. Am I not correct, Tracy?
I guess I have to confess, I don't know exactly what the Urban Renewal Board has committed to. I know on the sheet that the mayor is referring to, the Urban Renewal Board is down here for $72,000 for the overall project, but even after taking that into account, the total project has a funding gap that at least apparently according to these estimates anyway, of about $42,000 or $43,000.
And we really haven't addressed that. We haven't gotten the final figures back from the architect yet. And to be honest with you, I don't know what we're so new, we only have a couple of members that are the old Urban Renewal Board, and I'm not sure where they were with that. I'd have to do more research into that.
I think we have always been under the impression for the last, ever since Phase 4 came to light, that we likely were going to be about $50,000 short on it. And that's taking all the resources of the Urban Renewal Board, the excess cash that is in the budget right now, and we're still short. So when we get to a bid point, I would assume that we're going to have some options put on there, because I don't know that we're going to be able to come up with another $40,000 or $50,000.
Right, and I think that's part of what, when I said it may be Broadway both sides, Maple both sides, and hopefully Second Street both sides, that Second Street may have to get put off, you know, and no, until I know where the bids are coming in, and it's gonna be kinda hard to tell how much of that project we can complete this year. So that's, I
And I
think,
don't think we have any guarantee from the Community Foundation either for
no, not
for
at
their
this time,
amount, so-
no,
So we could be 100 short.
right.
Well, I just wanted to get that clarified. I was a little concerned where that was gonna come from since, but,
Well, we're a little concerned too.
okay, very good. Are there any other questions then for Sharon? If not, then I'd ask for a motion to accept this report from the Urban Renewal Board. So moved by Alderman Garnos. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Johnson. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Sharon, very
You're
much.
welcome.
Good job. Item number 12 is a request for contingency account transfer to fund one half of housing needs assessment, $5,000. I believe Linda Shriver is here to speak to us. Are you here to speak to us, Linda?
Not exactly, but I can.
Okay, just a little quickie as to kind of bring all the rest of the council members up to speed on the housing needs assessment.
A group of people that are affiliated with different forms of housing, affordable housing in some way or another, decided to meet on a monthly basis and share our resources so that everybody knew what everybody else was doing, and so that we weren't duplicating any services, and so that one housing agency would know what the other housing agency was doing. As a result of these meetings, we started discussing needs that there are in the community. And we came up with a need that we all felt as housing providers, that there is a lack of moderate income housing in Watertown, and that several of the people that we work with would be eligible to be homeowners and would be eligible for several government grants, Federal Home Loan Bank grants, etc. Also, we had some mortgage lenders that indicated that they had applicants that were eligible for mortgages for houses, but the problem was they couldn't find any houses in Watertown because the houses were either of the income, or I mean of the price range where they wouldn't qualify because they needed too much work, or they were way overpriced, not overpriced, but they were of a higher price so that the people of the lower or moderate income could not afford to buy them. As a result of this, we felt that as housing providers that we really should know what the need is in Watertown for this certain income range housing. And went to, made an appointment with our mayor and also Public Works Director and also Tracy, the Finance Committee. And we were told to make a presentation for funding at the Public Works Committee meeting on February 21st and also the Finance Committee on February 21st. And that is what we're here for tonight, is to see what the recommendations were from those two committee meetings.
I believe the finance committee recommended, obviously to fund, you were gonna pay, your group was gonna pay for half, was it up to?
Well, my board doesn't know anything about it yet,
Oh, okay.
but
I guess what our finance.
They do now.
Yeah, they do now.
Nancy does.
Yeah.
We meet on Friday.
Yeah. I believe our finance committee made a motion in the afternoon then to fund a study up to $5,000.
Well, the Public Works Committee, when these folks were in front of the Public Works Committee, recommended that they go to the First Planning District or some other organization and start the study. Now, I don't know how it got to the Finance Committee or how it got to the council, but I'm a little upset by that.
They came back at the finance meeting and had followed the advice of the Public Works Board and had approached First District, and I believe came to the finance meeting with a proposal ranging from $4,000 to $8,000.
We were scheduled, Mr. Heller, we were scheduled to meet with both Public Works and Finance on the same day. So we didn't, say, we didn't like what you
How did you get
said.
to the First District and then back to the Finance Committee in the same day?
Well, your meeting was at 7 a.m. in the morning and the other meeting was at 5:15 in the afternoon.
Was somebody on the Finance Committee meeting, explain to me how they feel that the city of Watertown should fund something like this? This, in my estimation, should be a chamber fund or a real estate broker fund or some other fund. I don't see how it's gonna, why the taxpayers of Watertown should pay for something like this.
Well, I guess my feeling on it, and I offered the motion to pay for half of the study. We do quite a number of things in partnerships in Watertown, and this group had identified a potential need in the community, and it was my belief that they're going to be looking for a way to provide lower priced housing. If this goes any farther, it's probably going to require some other assistance of the city or whatever, because there's not very many ways to provide low cost housing other than to figure out how to cut some costs on certain things. But I put it out in the spirit of a partnership involving the entire city. We give $5,000 to the Salvation Army. We give money to a lot of organizations that are broad-based, and so my recommendation was that we do 50% of the cost. I mean, if it's a $4,000 study, we're going to do $2,000, and so.
Well, the organization that Linda works for is an arm of the city, so the city in effect will be funding the whole the whole 10,000 or 20,000 or whatever it is.
The organization that I work for gets no money from the city, none, zero.
I guess the question I got is, excuse me, there was a previous study done and nothing was accomplished by it. Why should we pay for another study to put on the shelf, collect dust, because I can't justify paying taxpayers' money to help pay for somebody else's house? And that's basically what it is. At this present time, there's about 200 plus houses on the market.
Of what price range, Al?
Anywhere from 35 to 150,000.
How many that are in the price range that we're talking about? You got the sheet that.
I received the sheet that morning, yes. And we always talk about affordable housing, but to me, affordable housing is what you can afford on your income.
That's exactly right.
So how do you propose to go to work and come up with cheaper homes?
Because we're talking about people that make the medium income of $30,000 a year.
This is true, but how can you build a house any cheaper than what's
Well-
being built right now? A contractor can't do it for any less.
I would hope that you as the city fathers would care enough about the residents of your city to find out a way to figure out how we can accommodate the people of lesser means in our community the same way that our city fathers decided 25, 30 years ago that we were going to need some elderly housing in Watertown and decided to build a high-rise and other family housing for low-income people because we cared about the citizens of Watertown. I put the challenge on the city. I hope that if this housing needs assessment comes back saying we have we have very low-priced houses that nobody can afford to get grants or loans for because they aren't adequate. They are either in the floodplain or they need too much repair, or the other price houses that we have in our city are way too overpriced for these citizens or our Watertown citizens to afford, that I challenge our city, everybody, the construction companies, myself as a housing authority, you as a city council, economic development, Focus Watertown, to figure out a way that we can keep these people of that means who are going to be doing the jobs of the economic development that we want in our community. It's a basic need. Housing is a basic need. And I challenge everybody here, and are the ones to make the decision for the citizens that you represent in Watertown.
Well, don't get me wrong. I feel sorry for the people that cannot afford it either. But there's a certain amount of money that's there, and
We're only talking about a small amount of money, very small amount of money to do a needs assessment. So we can have the facts in black and white.
Linda, maybe I missed this. You're asking the city to put up 5,000. Who's putting up the other half?
We don't know yet. Hopefully my housing authority board will, with extra money that we have accumulated from not spending as much as I really don't know, Gordy. We'll figure out a way. If it won't be my housing authority board, we'll go to other resources.
Like what?
I don't know. You never know.
I know this would be a benefit to the realtors, wouldn't it?
Why would it be a benefit to the realtors? If they can sell $200,000 houses, why would they want $100,000 houses?
Because those $200,000 houses are not being sold to the
You know what?
Economic class that you're talking about.
A benefit to the realtors, any benefit that they can get that would help someone, they have people that are ready to buy houses.
Well, my question is, they're not contributing to this, is that right?
They might. We haven't gone. The first person that I thought of as a housing authority director, nonprofit agency, was to partner up with the city council.
The last housing needs assessment that was done did result in some things. One of them was Northridge subdivision was largely designed as an outcome of that. The streets are a little bit narrower and the lots are a little bit smaller than what we normally approve. And we did that back then, or the council that was here at the time did that with the hope that lot prices would be a little less and that we would be able to build some cheaper housing in that area. It started out working, and it's not now. I mean, the houses up there are out of the price range. And so I had expressed the concern as well, Al, as you are and George are bringing up, that once we get the housing needs assessment done, what's the next step, and how are we going to do something different than we did the last time around, which was a good try but didn't quite hit the mark. But whether you try and get the answers first or you get the needs laid out on the table first and then get the answers. And so I came around to the conclusion that the best thing to do was get the needs on the table first and then see if there's any solution.
Well, if I thought it'd do any good, I'd vote for it. But I just honestly don't see any need, any reason for it. to vote against it is like saying I'm voting against mom and apple pie, and that's not the case. I really don't like the way this was handled, and I would think that the logical way to do things would be to get the other half of the funding, and then if you're short, come back and ask for money from the city, and maybe we'd be more responsive to that. But to come in and just ask for $5,000, not that $5,000's a whole lot of money, but to ask for it first from us and then say, well, maybe we can get something else done, maybe we can get some other money from other people, that don't set well with me.
Brad, George is saying, referring to 5,000, what did you just say the recommendation of the finance committee was?
The recommendation was that we would pay half of the cost of the study, up to $5,000. So if the study costs $4,000, we're paying $2,000.
You said up to 4,000. The
Oh, okay.
maximum will be 8,000. We were told that by First
So-
Planning District.
So if you have a maximum of 8,000, then our contribution would be 4. If it were 6,000, it would be 3. So they have to come up for 50% of the cost of the study, and I would make that in the form of a motion.
Okay, we have a motion then to approve this contingency account transfer to fund one half of a housing needs assessment up to $5,000. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Alderman York. Any further discussion?
I'm not so certain that the problem is the dollar amount, is the fact that it came about real quick. And the normal process for this group to act as we normally do is that the research would have been done, your board would have said yes and said we're willing to come up with the money, and you would have had deal with Todd or whoever over the First District, and then presented the facts that, your board, based on these discussions, based on your board's action, based on First District's ability to perform, is able to do this kind of a study. And because the city certainly is concerned about low income or moderate, whatever your term, that's one of the responsibilities I feel of a city. So I don't think there's a problem with us feeling or being involved with providing that type of thing. I just think we would prefer that we had all of the facts and figures and dollars in front of us, and then we would probably be willing to, make a better judgment of what we're doing.
May I answer to that? This is not part of my job. I'm a housing authority director. I provide rental assistance for 267 families in Watertown, and we manage and own a 60-unit high-rise and 25 family houses. I'm aware of housing problems because of the people and the clients I deal with. This is something that I attended, this affordable housing committee that got together at Hunter's Inn at noon on my own, not part of my job. However, I think my job from the time I leave the house in the morning till the time I go to home at night is housing needs, because I'm aware of the housing needs in Watertown. I would love to see people that are on my rental assistance program not only get off because their income is too high and they're no longer eligible, but be able to be a homeowner. This is a personal as well as a professional desire of mine. My board has undertaken 10 years ago, when we did a housing resource survey, a project that we thought would be for the betterment of Watertown. And we were told by probably not this same city council that we should go to them first and we should let them know about what we're doing first and not go far and dig into things and then come back and ask for permission. So as a result of what we did 10 years ago, we think that we're doing the right thing this time.
It's not a right or a wrong thing. It's just a matter, I think, is 10 years ago versus now. And, so it's not being a critical or a criticism, and
Okay.
you're only here because you happen to stand up in front and do it. And my remarks were addressed towards whatever group that is out there that met and had this thing. I'm just saying, for the sake of Watertown and what that your group is attempting to do, this is the way that we've been approaching things in the past 6 years since I've been here. So if it's different than it was then, that was just a suggestion on my part, nothing meant other than that.
This facts on housing, this has been compiled. Did you get that in your, okay. That was what was compiled by the Affordable Housing Needs Committee. And beyond this, we felt we needed some professional statistics to back up the needs in Watertown. That's all. And my Housing Authority Board is dealing with, I mean, we're dealing with housing and urban development cuts right and left. So we don't have all kinds of excess money that I can go to my board to ask for. So that's why we thought we'd come to the city council, because this is a city problem. This is not a housing authority problem, it's a city problem. We want economic development. We need a place for those people that are going to work there to live. It's been a city problem that's been ignored for a long, long time because it's too easy to ignore it. Because everybody says there's nothing we can do about it.
There are many of us who certainly understand the predicament of affordable housing.
I hope
here
so.
now. But if your committee can come back and let us know where the other half is coming from, we'll have a little more to work with. I believe there is a motion on the floor, so I will move the question.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Roll call, please.
Okay, on the motion to approve a $5,000 contingency transfer, Mr. Garnos.
Yes.
Gisselbeck?
Yes.
Heller? No. Johnson? Yes. Meisenheimer?
No.
Solberg is absent. Walter?
Yes.
Wilson?
No.
York?
Yes,
And
and that's
Arbogast.
up to 5,000, we said. Not necessarily 5,000.
Well, the transfer is for $5,000 to fund half of this study up to a maximum of $5,000.
Okay.
And Arbogast.
Yes.
I count 6 in favor, 3 opposed.
6 in favor, 3 opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Item number 13 is request for authorization to proceed with acquisition of E91 Alley computer for $57,572. David Haig.
Good evening, thank you. I'll try to keep this short because I don't know how long my voice is going to hold out. Because of some misinformation that we were given by a computer vendor, we've been painted into somewhat of a serious corner at the police department with respect to 911 operations. And I'm here this evening to request a slightly earlier than planned replacement of the Alley computer in our 911 communications center. This Alley computer is the computer that makes enhanced 911 work. It's the heartbeat or the nerve center of enhanced 911, and it's what makes the data transactions that gives us the name, address, and phone number of callers. In 2002, this Alley computer was actually originally scheduled for replacement this year as my current capital improvement project for 2006. But because we were given some misinformation by the manufacturer and were assured by the manufacturer of this computer that it was fully capable of handling phase 2 data streams, we decided that it didn't need to be replaced just yet. For this reason, the replacement of the Alley computer was actually then moved to the capital improvement list for next year, which is fiscal year 2007, and because we had another project on the burner that was deemed a lot more urgent at the time. Excuse me. Phase 2 that I just referred to is the project name for the ability of our center to receive the location of cellular callers, who now represent well over 60% of all of our incoming 911 calls. Early this past December, we were actually getting ready to launch Phase 2 when we discovered that the Alley computer was indeed not able to handle the data traffic that gives us the location of these cellular callers. This means that the project to give us the ability to capture the location of cellular callers has been placed on hold for the time being until we get this issue resolved. And in looking into this matter further, the manufacturer of this computer is admitting to us its mistake, that it gave us bad information when they told us that the computer didn't need to be replaced this year. And for this reason, they're stepping up to the plate and giving us a substantial discount so that we can proceed. Not only is this project on hold, but our records management software conversion that we're currently kicking off and our digital mapping project that's going to be kicked off soon, those projects will both be affected by this problem. The price quoted for, the price that you have before you that was quoted by the manufacturer of this computer is actually considerably less than the $90,000 that I had budgeted for this year and now next year for the same project. And there's also some concern that $90,000 next year might not quite be enough to replace this computer. I do have the funding for this project available, so it's not a matter of the fact that I'm asking for more money or money that doesn't exist, because we do have the funds. And it is a project that has already been approved for next year, and because of the urgency of the situation we're currently in, we're asking for permission to proceed now rather than wait till next year. The difference will come to about a $30,000 savings if we proceed now, and the fact that we can start locating our cellular callers about a year and a half sooner, because right now we have no way of locating them. And again, as I said, over 60% of all of our 911 calls come from cellular phones. So the amount that I'm requesting is actually $57,572 for the computer itself, and another $2,580 to upgrade the software to the police department's phone system, because those two are tied together. They're integral parts of each other, as is the digital mapping that I'm about to kick off, and the RMS software project that we currently have underway. Those projects are all intertwined and work with each other. So this project that with this Alley computer is a huge problem for us right now.
Dave, is that $5,800 for that software upgrade, is that coming out of that 911 fund also?
Yes.
So we have money for all that?
Yes, all of the money that I'm requesting is currently in a so-called savings account that we've built up over the years with extra funding that's generated by the surcharge for these kinds of contingencies.
Okay, very good. May I have a motion, please?
So move.
So moved by Mrs. Walder, seconded by Mrs. Arbogast. Are there any further questions for Dave? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Item number 14 has been removed as request of Chief Vitek. Item number 15 is request by Park and Recreation Board for authorization to purchase a mower using the State of Nebraska state bid contract. Roger?
Okay, in your packet, there should be two sheets that refer to this item. First sheet's entitled Finance Committee 21406. The Park and Rec Board first went to the Finance Committee and has their recommendation to you that would recommend that we purchase this mower off the State of Nebraska bid. Kind of an unusual request to you. You can see in that short statement the reasons why we're asking for this. We're only asking for it for this particular item because there is no local or in-state vendor who can provide the mower that meets this spec. We did recently bid the mower, and because of a cutting width specification that was 2 inches off, we had to reject those bids. So we know that if we rebid it, the cost will be that $40,945. The vendor has offered to sell us the same mower using the Nebraska state bid at a savings of about $2,015. We're here asking your permission because as a home rule charter community, we have the ability to purchase off of another state's bid. And so in visiting with Stanton and Tracy, we ended up going to the Finance Committee, and it's their recommendation that you allow us to do this, and that's our request. That's your question.
Thank you, Roger. Is there a motion?
I have a question first.
Oh,
Can I ask a question first?
why don't we go ahead and get the motion
Go
in a
ahead and
second,
get
then
the
we'll have
motion.
discussion. Motion by Alderman Garnos. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Heller. Now, Larry, your question.
What is so unique about our parks that we require such a specialized mower that it can only be found in Nebraska?
Well, the mower, the brand of the mower is Toro, and there are no in-state distributors for Toro. The uniqueness of this mower, and we have two of them in the park department now. The second page in your packet shows the difference between the two types of mower. And basically the difference is with the 4100D, all of the 10.5 foot cutting width is out in front of the operator, and so the visibility is much better. The alternative design made by Toro, John Deere, Jacobson is the center deck is out front and the two side decks sit back to the side. And so when we're mowing in the park system where we've got lots of trees and benches and fences and all those obstacles, it just works much better for us because of the operator's ability to see where he's trimming.
Well, it
That's-
just seems strange to me with all the parks the state has that there wouldn't have been a state bid out there for that, for that kind of a mower. So that's why I wondered why we had to go to Nebraska, to buy a mower.
Matter of fact, the state of South Dakota, the largest mower they have on state bid is like a 60-inch mower. And so the DOT uses large rotary mowers that are pull type in their highway ditches. I don't know what the college campuses that are state-owned and operated and the state park division is using, but this is a 10.5-foot wide rotary mower. And if there is no State Department requesting purchasing and procurement to bid them, then there are none bid.
Any other questions to Roger? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 16 is a contract renewal with CH2M Hill for calendar year 2006 stormwater phase 2 activities. Rick?
Thank you, Mayor Fox. On February 14th, we visited with the Public Works Committee, or at the Public Works Committee, with regard to the 2006 contract renewal with CH2M Hill to help us out with our effort to comply with the stormwater phase 2 requirements. You'll note in your packet that we've included a letter dated January 16th, along with a copy of, an excerpted copy that is, of the scope and the agreement that we are asking the authority for the finance officer and Mayor Fox to sign. The amount is $60,000. It is budgeted. This comes with the recommendation of the Public Works Committee for approval.
Have a motion then for that approval? So moved by Alderman Meisenheimer. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Giselbeck. Any further questions or discussion?
Rick, how many more years do you anticipate we're gonna need to use these guys?
We're going to need them probably this year, 2007, and perhaps 2008, until we get our ordinances in line and our programs up to speed, and some staff training, and with the runoff control plans for our major facilities.
And these are, I mean, these services are all something, I mean, that's enough money to hire a person about, but the services are specialized enough that we need their assistance rather than putting on our own staff person.
I get that, it could go either way, depend if we get the right person, the right staff person, yes, but you're right, the $60,000, that's perhaps one FTE.
But then after
If we consider that now, Mr. Johnson, we won't be able to stay on board.
Right,
with
something
our
to think
schedule.
about for down the road.
Okay.
But then we'd have that person after everything is in place, and would there still be a position for them?
As we learn more in terms of what this phase 2 is going to demand of city staff, we may have work for that person anyway. We don't know the answer to that fully at this point, though. But I'm anticipating a staffing need there.
Is there a motion then, please?
So move.
So moved by Alderman Johnson, seconded?
I'll second.
Seconded by Alderman York. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Rick.
Thanks.
Item number 17 is consideration of contract change order number 2 to the contract with Dakota Contracting for the air carrier ramp improvement project for $3,614. Dave?
Good evening. This is a change order for adding grounding receptacles for the fueling equipment and out at the airport, and also for routing and sealing additional joints in the concrete panels that were placed out there for the hard stand. This has already been approved by the FAA and South Dakota Aeronautics, and it comes to you with recommendation from the Public Works Committee for approval.
Thank you, Dave. We have a motion to that effect, please?
So moved.
So moved by Alderman Meisenheimer. A second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Alderwoman York. Alderwoman Arbogast. Any further questions or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Sorry, Carol. Item number 18 is the request for authorization for the mayor to sign an intergovernmental agreement with Connington County and the Sisseton Oyate Sioux Tribal Government. Stanton, please.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, for 4 years, the city, county, and the Sisseton Wapaton Oyate tribe have been parties to an agreement for fire, for law enforcement, and emergency services up at the Dakota Sioux Casino. As part of the agreement, Sisseton pays the county $60,000 annually for all those services, and then that payment is then divided with $36,000 going to the city to the county for the services they provide, and $24,000 coming to the city for the services we provide. That agreement, the most recent one, we've had two separate agreements over a 4-year period. The most recent agreement expired on February 1st of this year. But as you know, both the city and county contacted the Sisseton Wapaton Oyate tribe and let them know that we intended to continue providing these services while we negotiate a new agreement. Since that contact was made letting them know we'd continue to provide services, we've been contacted again, the city has, by both the county and the Sisseton Wapaton Oyate tribe, and they've asked that we continue under the existing agreement, identical terms with the same payment amount, $60,000 annually, and that we enter into a 1-year extension of this agreement. So all the terms would be identical, with the 1-year extension to expire on December 31st of this year. Excuse me. And during the next 9 months, the expectation is that the city and county separately will negotiate with the Sisseton Wapaton Oyate tribe to come up with two separate agreements for the same level of services. It's just not going to be a 3-party agreement anymore. It's going to be a separate agreement between the city and the Sisseton Wapaton Oyate tribe and the county and the tribe as well. But what they've asked for, and my understanding is that the county has already agreed to a 1-year extension, expire December 31st this year, with all the terms, including the payment, to be the same.
I'd like, Stan, did they not want that payment to be broken into 2 payments?
They did request a payment, I believe, in July and then October.
October.
Yeah, to be broke. Yeah, so the $60,000 increment would be broken up into 2 $30,000 payments over the course of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Didn't the finance committee, because of the high fuel costs, et cetera, request a larger amount?
Yes, Gordon. As I recall, and Tracy probably remembers better, I know that the Finance Committee did recommend that when we negotiated what we thought was going to be another 2-year agreement, that we factor in something to reflect the cost of living adjustment or a CPI index factor to some extent. I thought the figure was probably a $5,000 increase per year for the next 2 years, and that was communicated to the tribe. I'm in often daily contact with Peter Jones, who's the tribe's attorney, and we did have the conversation with him about that request. He brought it to the tribal council, and for a variety of circumstances that have occurred up there recently, they came back with us and said, is there any chance we can just hold the agreement over for another year? We're not in a position really where we can be negotiating for another 2-year extended agreement. So the Finance Committee's recommendation was communicated to them. Their response to me is the one I'm sharing with you tonight.
With that being said, is there either a motion to approve or not approve that request?
Motion approved.
Motion to approve by Alderman Giselbeck. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Wilson. Any further questions or discussion? If not, then all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Stanton. Item number 19 is a request for authorization to advertise for bids for roof replacement and rooftop HVAC units for the Community Recreation Center. John?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The Community Recreation Center is in need of replacing the existing roof and rooftop cooling and heating units. Asking the council to authorize the advertisement of bids to replace the roof and the rooftop units, and we do have funds set aside from 2006 capital improvements for this project.
Okay, thank you, John. Is there a motion then to approve that?
So moved.
So moved by Alderman Garnos. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Alderwoman York. Is there any further questions or discussion?
Wow, just, I was up there the other morning and they had the buckets sitting around in the weight room downstairs catching the water, and the ceiling tile was falling down and all that kind of stuff. So.
It slowed down in the morning. You should have saw it in the evening when it was warmer out. So.
Okay, any other questions then to John? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, John.
Okay, thank you.
Item number 20 is the approval of the Second Amendment to the lease provisions with Priority Air Incorporated. I believe Eric was going to talk to us to that. If not, there he is. Hi, Eric. Excuse me.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council.
It's been a long night.
That's okay.
It's coming there. About a year ago, Priority Air and the City of Watertown worked out an agreement where we switch our yearly payments into like a monthly payment plan or such with Priority Air. The lease in front of you tonight is a continuation of that agreement over the last year up until 2008, which is when most of their leases at the airport expire. All the payments and such appropriate are about the same, and it basically makes all payment through an ACH automatic withdrawal, or deposit in this case. If you have any questions about the lease, I could sure answer, but it's just a continuation of the lease we signed last year.
Other than it's going to be automatically deposited or taken out this time, so.
Correct.
Is there a motion then to approve this?
So moved.
Excuse me. So motion by Alderman Arbogast and seconded by Alderman Meisenheimer. Any further questions or discussion for Eric? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you very much.
Item number 21 is a presentation of the preliminary 2005 financial statements, and we'll take council action to accept these reports after Shauna.
Thank you. On your desks, I placed the 2005 annual financial statements. These are preliminary versions, and they are unaudited, as is clearly marked on them. Also included is the cash report, which kind of lays out where the investments for the city were held as of December 30th. The auditors begin today, in fact, at the utilities, so they will be on their way over here probably in a few weeks. We are required to present these to the governing board each year, and that's what we're doing right now. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to stop by the finance office, and we can go through the details with you. We will be presenting the final CAFR when it is complete to you.
Sean, are you sure these are in balance?
I am positive.
She was pretty happy the other day. She said everything came right down to the penny.
Yes, sir.
I was in her office, that's why I had to ask.
Oh, I'm sorry, Larry. Okay, good.
She was just hoping somebody would ask.
They're always in balance.
Could we have a motion then for council action to accept these reports?
So moved.
So moved by Alderwoman Walder. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Alderman Wilson. Any further questions or discussion? Aye. If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 22 is the approval of business license applications as follows. Rosenbaum's signs for sign installer application for $100, and Ace Neon signs for a sign installer for $100. So could I have a motion then to approve those two business license applications?
So moved.
So moved by Alderman Johnson. Is there a second? Second. Second by Alderman Wilson. Any further questions or discussion?
Yes. Are these are out-of-town businesses, are they aware of our upcoming sign ordinance, and will they be in compliance?
Our building inspector, Ken, would you like to step up to the podium, please, and address the council as to their or that they're aware of our new sign ordinance coming before us?
Yes, both these businesses are aware of our ongoing sign ordinance changes and are able and wishing to participate fully to its requirements.
And they are aware of our moratorium?
Yes, they are.
Okay. If I may, a motion then, please?
Got it already.
Motion by Alderman Johnson. We already had the motions, and all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 23 is approval of applications for abatement or refund of taxes for Richard or Helen Lossberger for $210.12. The City of Watertown for $36.20. City of Watertown for $2.46. Darrell Haugen for $954.38. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Alderman York, seconded by
Second.
Alderman Johnson. Is there any questions or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 24 is acknowledgement of a notice to conduct a raffle by the Independent Electrical Contractors, Dakotas Incorporated. May I have a motion then to acknowledge that notice to conduct a raffle?
So moved.
So moved by Alderman Johnson. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderwoman Walder. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 25 is the approval of bills and payroll as presented and authorized payment. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a
So
motion
moved
to
by,
pay the bill.
okay, motion by Alderwoman York, seconded by Alderman Heller to approve these bills and so forth, payments. Any further questions or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next on the open, we have a resolution of appreciation that Alderman Garnis asked us to submit to our legislative people. And Gordy, did you want to make any comments in regards to that?
Yes, serving on the military committee for the Chamber of Commerce, we've worked for 10 years in putting together some kind of a package for a new armory in Watertown. We were able to finally bring this to conclusion during this legislative session through the help of State Senator Lee Schoenbach and with the supportive help of Representatives Bob Fain and Al Koistinen. You have copies of the resolution, and what this does is to show our gratitude to our three legislators for the work that they have done, for Schoenbach for the introduction, and for our representatives for the work they did in getting it passed through the House. The measure passed both houses by a wide majority, and we certainly owe them, our legislators, a debt of gratitude.
Thank you very much.
I would so move accept.
So moved by Alderman Garnis for passage of resolution number 06017, seconded by Alderman Gisselbeck. Any questions or discussion?
I just had one, probably for Alderman Garnis. What's the next step now? What happens next after this? We've got the endorsement of the state.
Yeah.
Where do we go now?
Right now, it's in the hands of the developers of the plans, and until they're have been presented and approved by the military people and the state, Watertown's part will not be up for consideration, probably for a year or two. But the basic work has been done through this legislation.
Well, our thanks also to you for the work that you've done on military affairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordy. Good job. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next is I'd like to bring the attention to the council of a request by Lake Area Tech for both Josh and I as for a possible internship for a young man that needs to complete his internship in the IT department to graduate. The reason why he would like to come to City Hall and do this is because of our vast, he can just learn so much more by following Josh and all the things that Josh does.
Out to the goose field or what?
In all seriousness, though, he would like to come here as opposed to private industry is because of the web hosting that we do and other things that we do with email and that. And it'd be about 500 hours. And so at our next meeting, I'm going to ask that he be put on the agenda to authorize his internship, and he'll be here to introduce himself and to be available to answer any questions that the council may have. I guess tonight was just to kind of give you a heads up on that we're going to be requesting that. There will be absolutely no cost to the city. It's all donated time on his part. I imagine he must have paid that for tuition, right, Josh?
Yeah, the gentleman's name's actually Steve Anderson, and he needs to complete 240 hours for an internship, which is a total of it's 4 credits, and that is all taken care of out of his tuition. They do need it to graduate, as every IT person up there. So
that's it. I guess it'll be on the agenda then for our next meeting, and I would ask for your approval at that time. So going on, is there anything else for the open? If not, we'll move to old business. Is there an old business to take care of? If not, we'll move to any new business. Any liaison member reports? We will need to go into executive session in regards to some contract negotiations. We will not be making any approvals or disapprovals after we're out of executive session, so if the room, can we have a motion to go in executive session? So moved by Alderwoman Garno, seconded by Alderman Meisenheimer. Alderwoman Arbogast, excuse me. All in favor say aye. Opposed? We'll go into executive session.